before. Do we see adaptations in the draft, or do we feel, Rue, that it needs to be more gameplay stuff?
God damn it. Yes, we see adaptations. You ban Xayah. It's Hido. We know this. Like, every team gives Hido Xayah game one, lose game one immaculately, and then they're like, hey guys, that Xayah champ was pretty good. Hido seems to be okay at this champ. Let's ban it away.
Yeah, I mean, again, it is Hido's version of Aphelios, right? He's not like Liam Cole, right? Where it's Aphelios all the time. He is the Xayah guy, right? So I'm glad that that's gone. Also, obviously, beautiful synergy with the most contested pick, which is that Rakan. I'm interested to see how far up in priority the Rakan goes in this series until we start to get it first picks all the time. But yeah, I do like the opening grab from Verdant. If you can't deal with Hido on it, don't deal with Hido on it, you know?
If you don't have an answer, don't let him take it in the first place now. Dropped ban for this is either going to be Rumble or Tristana. Obviously, Nord may want to pick one of those up in favour of dropping one of their bans. It's not the case so far. They banned Rel, Jace, Kaiser. So far, they're 2 for 2. Obviously, Verdant, they've had to drop one of the two. So Rumble, a potential first pick for Verdant, or the ban here for Nord. And then you open up things like Kaiser or Rumble as the option for depending on what Nord go to.
Could opt to first pick that Maokai. Again, though, we were saying that we could have a potentially contested jungle pool here. We've seen Indecision has been quite focused in terms of the champions that he's willing to play. It has been a lot of the Poppy, the Maokai, the Rel, the Sejuani, and actually going to be the Maokai banned away on the red side by Nord themselves. So Verdant, they've got that Rumble open and available for them to pick up.
So it's interesting because now Sedge Prio really increases because previously you'd been trading the 2 S tier junglers of Maokai and Sejuani, so maybe you feel like you want to go for the Sedge as an opening, but Nord here, they've got a choice to, I think they get 3 power picks here because we have Rumble, Kaiser, and Sejuani open. Verdant only get 1, Nord are going to be able to take 2 if they want them.
They are so worried about giving Nord things that they might really want that they're now picking them for themselves in a way that doesn't necessarily complement how they've been playing the game. The Kaiser ban was the drop ban, and that was very interesting because it indicated that Nord may really be dead set on this Xayah, Zeri, Kaiser kind of trio that they've had success on with Hido, right? Like, we all remember that Ashe game that Hido had at one point. He had a really good Ashe game once, but it was very flippy the next time he got it. These seem to be the 3 champions he's been performing on, and they dropped the Kaiser ban when they saw the Xayah ban done. Instead of trying to play around with that, they want to pick away what they believe is going to be a big contested pick for the series, which is the Rumble. They have the Sejuani with it, but with that, you know, basically have double AP on top side, and Naito pretty much has to go for his old school Yasuo, Yone, Tristana's down, Jace is down. It's very restrictive for them, and I don't really see that many tools to deal with the Kaiser.
And no real surprises from Nord. If they are going to lock this all in, I think Catchcast has made his name on that champion a little bit. And then the Nautilus for Wendell, again, something that fits into his wheelhouse. So it doesn't feel like Verdant are feeling like they're massively changing things up yet. We'll have to see what adaptations come through in the second phase of bans and picks.
And, you know, this on that top side, we'll have to see whether or not they want to take away... well, actually, they know what they're going up against top lane, so... It is just catch cost going. I don't really care that this is going to be an awful matchup. Rumble versus Melees. We've heard Aragon say it time and time again. Rumble's going to win this top matchup. The onus is on Nile to win harder than we saw him win in the last game. Previously, 10 CS 10 CS lead into an assist is not the advantage that you need out of a top lane that is favoured for you. So, hoping for more from Nile this game.
And interesting, we are actually starting to see a little bit of that focus towards the jungle pool of Indecision from Verdant. I'm going to be interested to see if they're going to want to focus that even more, but they have got those 4 main picks off the board. So we've seen this guy take stuff like Nocturne into the jungle with mixed success, but Azir not going to be playable for Naito, nor is this LeBlanc.
The Azir ban's definitely a very weird one for me. There would have been triple AP topside. Suddenly your picks become really obvious because you're running Kaiser, you're running Rakan, and Galio is open right now. So I don't think I would have cared if they went for that triple AP. It's interesting then because Yone is up. Naita's a very strong Yone player, very strong Yasuo player. Enemy's not going to get Ahri. He's likely to just get something he can accelerate those kinds of champions on. And he'll do a very good job at it. He's going to have good synergy with the Sedge. He's going to have very good synergy with the Rumble, because these are going to be very high damage champions you have to build resistances for, so it's a difficult game for Omen. yeah, I don't think this was it. That would be very on theme, by the way, if you wanted to go a Galio into a potential
Yeah.
AP mid, by the way. So Nocturne, Kai'Sa, Rakan, it does something really well, right? It dives over and over again. It skirmishes over and over again. If you're ever in a 3v3, 2v2, you 100% win that because you're just going to insta-give someone at the start of the fight and go 3v2, 2v1, or what have you, right? So this is another composition where Nord are going to get to play that super strongly. And the Zeri is a very interesting pick given this, because the Nocturne can get on top of her, the Rakan can match her, the Kai'Sa is so strong in towards the Zeri. I'm not really liking these Verdant drafts, to be honest.
And I do think that looking at how, whenever you're looking at an AD carry versus Nocturne, it's always awful. First of all, you're going to get jumped on regardless.
Shocking.
There's that Yone that you were alluding to, Veteran. So nice to see Nita going to be able to bring a bit more AD damage to the damage profile of Verdant for the most part. But you're looking for an AD carry on the bot side that can get away from a Nocturne Fear. If you can't, you just have to take Cleanse. Zeri's one of those champions that you can get away with if you're stuck near walls, but then you can never use your E proactively.
Slam Malphite, do it.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Swain,
so...
I was actually worried about Verdant potentially picking, because that is, if you're going to go with Yone on mid lane, Swain is the single hardest counter to Kai'Sa in the game. So if you end up with Yone Yasuo mid lane and you end up with Swain bot lane, you do effectively shut down that Kai'Sa, you shut down their potential to dive you. Now the Swain has really obvious good counterplay into the pseudo dive composition that Verdant's got. He has a lot of sustain. He's not just going to get one shot maybe in the laning phase, but if he's able to get escorted through that, not so much. And he can kind of be that sustain tank in the backline along with the Ornn while the rest of the team goes into dive. So there isn't that much for Verdant to do if they're able to get the Ornn on the backline either. I love the Swain pick. I love the options that they have here, right? Kai'Sa's a bit more of a poke champion these days as well. I think Nord have got really good options on this draft. And once again, it feels like Verdant kind of choked it on the last two picks. They had really good options available, but then they ended up with a suboptimal set of carries into what their opponents have got planned.
Well, I think if we kind of look at what both of these compositions want to be doing, right, Rue, how does that change from Verdant for last game? Because it did feel like their intended style of just playing it out nice and slow through the lanes got completely shut down through Nord. And it does feel like they've got a few more tools here that mean that they're not going to be able, that they don't feel obliged to do that, but they can also compete a little bit more in these early skirmishes.
Yeah, I do think that you have skirmish capabilities with Yone, with Sejuani, right? You've got double solo lanes that are both melee. You've got Nautilus still on the map, so it's not the worst case scenario where if you want to look for fights, and I think this is important that it's pre-level 6, because, you know, you're looking up against things like Nocturne, like Swain, their level 6 turn on is very, very big. So you're looking to get those fights probably about that level 4, level 5 marker, and then generating those fights isn't necessarily easy. Maybe that first Drake of the game we see this time forfeited by Nord because they know that their level 6 spike is so huge, and if they can take a fight around a Herald perchance, that's when their team composition really starts to hit. So I think Verdant, they have a little bit of an onus from me to maybe try and take that first Drake of the game, just leverage a little bit of that earlier power. But again, as soon as they hit level 6s on both squads, it just becomes super difficult for Verdant to try and take these fights.
Ooh, okay. Don't see that all the time.
Hey, Middlecart. There's a new way for Verdant to find a win.
Well, I mean, Swain is a champion that spikes pretty hard at 6 and is quite vulnerable pre-6, especially now without that flash.
I like ganking mid.
My favourite part about that is that it could be completely apropos of this game. Obviously, it's specific because of the flash being taken down. I just have Veteran now as a diehard jungle main that will go mid-level 2 as Jarvan.
I mean...
I don't think I've ever seen you play a game of League of Legends, but that's now what I imagine.
Honestly, like, the last time I was heavy maining jungle was the Graves meta, and I just sat in enemy jungle the whole game, and kind of ignored my lanes. But yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a Mal runger. But I love ganking mid, and both teams love to gank mid here. You have Nord that drags Seneca even for this job. They love ganking mid so much. And you have Verdant love ganking mid so much that they burn the flash level 1. So you do have really good options here on both sides. But obviously the first advantage is towards Verdant. They need to get another one, given that they don't usually drag Wendell for these kinds of plays, at least not to the same frequency as Seneca. This is going to be a mid lane centric game again, but that's what we expected the series to look like, right? Most important player for Verdant is almost definitely, I saw how you guys all voted, their mid laner, and for Nord, it's all been about that mid section for the playoffs.
Absolutely. I think the questions that we had of Indecision and Omen, whether they could match the level that they'd shown against Ready, Verdant's been answered with an emphatic yes so far in this series. Now, the Nord jungler has been quite inconsistent on this Nocturne, which has been one of his pocket picks. Not often, sometimes finding a bit of a mismatch on the engages. Wendell getting an engage in the bottom lane here. Seneca with a knockup from the ground entrance, but it's him and Hido on the run. Decent play in the early game, burning the flash away from the Rakan.
Curious W placement from Seneca there. Not sure if he was trying to get a double knock-up or just stop Wendell from being able to continue getting auto-attacks down, but I feel like that would have been much better spent onto Gooby. Maybe gets his AD carry away and maybe means that you don't have to burn a flash. Not quite sure. Nevertheless, they do manage to get out to safety, and it's only a couple of combat summoner spells traded by Verdant where the flash from Seneca is now down. So the playmaking capability of this Rakan a little bit removed, and once again lends itself to these first few minutes of the game being very much Verdant favoured, and then upon that level 6 marker, about when you expect Seneca to get his flash back, you start to see Nord be able to make some plays again.
Indecision, quite strong right now. I remember back in the day when Scuttle spawned at 215, Nocturne was a heavy prio pick because at level 2 he literally destroyed everybody 1v1. But Seneca's still going to be there to escort him just in case of a contestant who looks like Sejuani's trading sides. Has the more powerful top. Bone plate down.
People just aren't used to lethal tempo melee champions, I don't think.
True.
This is that's why as well Nocturne honestly feels very scary trying to take these trades, because a lot of junglers earlier on reliant on their... oh, he gets interrupted.
Oh, he gets interrupted on the dash into the stun from Taxa, who makes another early visit to the top lane and gets another kill for himself.
Will this one have any repeats on it though, right? Last time around they got the initial kill, they even got the crash on it. This time Catch Coast isn't actually going to be as punished as he was before, at least in terms of that CS, right? The wave wasn't in such a horrible position. Nocturne is there to be able to escort if he needs anything else, and Rumble hasn't been able to recall to capitalize on that kill. So honestly, right now, item advantage is actually on Catch Coast. It's all about, can you get him out, can you get the Rumble out of this lane now before they do something about it, because this gank is squarely in Indecision Catch Coast's favourite, even if Sejuani's here.
No flash.
No flash for Nille. Indecision's got to follow with his own, gets the fear down, and cuts through the Rumble's health bar. A little bit of revenge for Nord on the top side.
Yeah, the answer's no.
It's just a flat no. It might only be a little thing, but I am a fan of Catch Coast giving the kill over to Indecision there. You can see he just walks away, knows that the Nocturne's got that locked up. Taxa makes his presence felt down on that bot side, not particularly able to get anything, but again, early game from this Sejuani proving to be just that little bit better so far. Obviously we know Nocturne trying to power farm up till level 6, make sure that Paranoia gets online as soon as possible. So it's good to see Taxa making those proactive moves prior to that window.
As a Season 4 Nocturne aficionado, whenever I couldn't get Vi, I also approve of the Nocturne getting the kills, because getting that Nocturne level 6 to be as strong as humanly possible, that should be the objective for the team. I just want to say, I believe that's true regardless of the jungler, to be honest. I think getting the early kills on jungle actually matters. The jungle item spike is still the most powerful one in the game. But on Nocturne in particular, that's the difference between him assassinating somebody straight up or not. If he's able to be completely solo and proactive everywhere, that's insane. He uses these tools better than most because he is a carry jungler, right? This is a carry jungle matchup against this kind of weak little Sejuani, not really a jungler. Everyone memes themselves into... Elder junglers are like, okay, I think Sejuani is S tier, so that their Chad laners don't beat them up in the locker room afterwards, alright? But in reality, champions like Nocturne's still where the game is at, right? And he is ahead.
Well, we're talking about Chad laners, and that's exactly what Verdant have locked in for themselves, right? You've got 3 carries with this Rumble Vanilla, so I guess you get even more onus on Indecision to get himself to an accelerated state, because even if you are going 1-for-1, that's still 2 carries on the enemy side that are going to be left up.
Small part of me just...
Here we go again. I love ganking mid lane.
Taxa is level 6, and Indecision isn't.
Should get it off his red buff, so it's not going to be a delayed Nocturne level 6 by any means, but obviously Taxa gets to flex out onto the map at this point, and now Oman obviously level 7, Cash Cost has hit that level 6 marker. That early game window that we mentioned for Verdant has begun to slip away. Herald not spawning for another 30 seconds, and
yeah, his timing is so weird.
Yeah, I mean, Seneca's still level 4 as well, so it's like the supports aren't even close to level 6 either. This is a particularly strange one.
Oh, flash from Wendell. Well, if he gets a kill out for it, maybe it's worth. Catch Cost with the stacks, with the stun coming through. Nille chasing him down with the Electro Harpoon and the Flame Spitter to finish him off. Well, we said that Verdant needed to make repeat visits to top lane. They've done exactly that.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Seneca was doing his roam to kind of defend jungle, defend mid, Nord a very mid-centric team in that regard, whereas with Verdant, they're like, okay, we're not really here for the Herald timing, maybe we can make a play through mid towards a Drake, I don't know, but that Wendell opened up around top side anyway, and they're making that lean towards top. If Nord are gonna overload mid, maybe the series will then be defined by Verdant overloading top in response and trying to put Nilla ahead.
And once again, right, Nille being ahead, a win condition that those of us that remember Verdant from Spring are going to be all too familiar with. Definitely the leading source for Verdant making their way to EMEA Masters. Special shout out to E-Roll as well, the mid laner from Spring, who's also had a very big impact in their role to this. Okay.
Yeah, well, we're talking about E-Roll, we're talking about plays in the mid lane. First ult from Indecision gets a flash out of Nita, but nothing more, and with Verdant being in a pretty strong place in this early game, you would hope from the north side to get more out of that engagement. Seneca and Hito both roaming up, but shouldn't be able to find anything.
Seneca in mid lane? No way. No.
What parallel dimension is this? Holy wow. Also,
Catch Coast as well.
Oh, Nita ulting back, still going to get hit.
Oh.
Flash forward from Catch Cost.
Hey!
Gets the dive under the tower. Taxa with the stun. Makes it a 1-for-1. Omen low on mana. Wendell moving over. The Sejuani chasing the Nautilus here. Gooby here as well. It's a whole party in the mid lane. But only Dione goes down.
Just barely made it through on towards that minion, so Wendell couldn't get the hook on him. Wendell doesn't have 6, so it's not as simple as just hook there and press R or something like that. Had to be able to land the hook on Omen, but Omen just able to get away. That was a sick play by Catch Coast, though, right? He went all in. He was committed to that thing. Was able to land the knock up, the poke, the initial R2, and everything, and set that up beautifully for Omen. The overloading of mid lane has worked out again for Nord. Verdant were able to respond, but that response didn't really get them anything at all. It just allowed them to escort their wave in. They're behind on those midsection plays, but they are still ahead on those topside ones.
Yeah, no. Worth mentioning that the, I suppose, response from Verdant was across 2 lanes as well. Overall, 3 plates secured. There was 1 top lane, 2 mid lane. For Verdant down on the spot side, you could just see on the bottom left there, Hito only managed to pick up 1 plate for himself. There's a 1-for-1 in those kills. You got a lot of free time on Nille. Gold in his back pocket. Early Demonic Embrace has been finished. I think they're looking toward these Drake fights now in a couple minutes' time. Verdant should be very favoured, actually, as they head into those. We've not really seen too much from the level 6 marker of Omen, of Indecision, right? That early Paranoia gank. And Ben Nita's flash. There's a window for him to try and re-gank this mid lane, but look at how nicely Knight is playing this wave. Using it just in a position that he can't really get ganked.
Oh, maybe you can set up for a gank if Wendell wants to get things going. No longer going to be in the bush as Omen gets the shove under the tower, securing that priority. Has had a decent time in the laning phase versus Nita, but like you said, hasn't really been able to get much efficacy out of this Swain pick as of yet. But for Verdant, It feels like they've very much recovered from that game one, put it out of their minds, have built a 2,000 gold lead for themselves and are looking very, very good. Omen gonna get hit from over the wall. The Hex Flash gonna come through as well. Engaging on the Swain at this point is dangerous, but the backup isn't quite there from Nord. Here comes Seneca, grand entrance with the quickness, and Niles 2P looks a little bit too late. Still able to output a fair bit of damage here on the Rondel, but once again it's Nord winning these early fights, and once again Omen gets 3.
4 versus 3 as well. Nord, numbers disadvantage, taking that fight. The teleport, as you mentioned, Middlecourt, somehow just a little too late. Nilla comes in when his team's already dead, and Seneca there. Massive Rakan engage to keep the team locked up.
Yeah, Seneca staring at them like, you fool. You've only adopted the mid lane this series. I've been there for 5 games in a row, baby. And goes straight in, swoops in with a triple knock-up. Perfect timing. You have to feel like when it comes to these mid lane skirmishes, which team feels more comfortable about that? It's 100% Nord. This has been working out for them. It's continuing to work out. It's basically a set play for them now. I just think you don't fight Nord around this area if you want to win this series. The game has to be based around Nilla. Right? Yeah. It has to. Yes, Katros on Ornn will find a way to be useful, okay? It's a tank, alright? Tanks can be 0-8 and still be useful in some way. But Nilla doesn't have another way to be useful, right?
Nilla's 8-0, that's a good thing.
Exactly, right? Like, we've seen Renekton's be 100 CS ahead and still be useless. You need to heavy snowball that. On Rumble, you still need to be heavy snowballing it. Don't think about it as great. We've got top slightly ahead. Let's bring him down towards midsection, not into Nord. That's not how this game is going to be played. That's not how this series is going to be played. Nord had prepared for that in the way that they play out every single game for the second half of the split. You have to make this all around Nilla, like we begged you to do so right at the start.
And the second paranoia. I don't want to conception combo. Looking a lot better. Indecision Omen continuing the great run of form that they've displayed in these playoffs so far, and have clawed Nord back the advantage in this game. 6 kills to the good with 30 seconds until that Drake spawns. Key itemization close for Nita on this Yone in the mid lane. Looks like he's going towards a Blade of the Rune King, but crucially hasn't got it yet.
He's so far behind, actually. If we look at those items, right? Riley's already finished for Oman. Got a catalyst in his inventory as well. So just by far and away, he's outpacing the Yone in terms of gold, in terms of items as well. And when I said that Verdant probably can look toward this dragon, they didn't nearly have this deficit, didn't nearly have this disadvantage that they would have to play against. Seeding this one, probably just the better move. You know that Oman has ulti. You can't particularly take this fight without without any repercussion. And it's 2 Drakes now for Nord. Herald spawning in under a minute's time, so maybe we get to see Verdant try to take that. But again, I think Nord are so powerful, they can look to contest anything they want on this top side.
I'm sorry, I just love looking at the scoreboard here, and it just feels like Gooby is that guy in the meme with, like, this is fine, while, you know, the whole house is on fire. Like, the ADC's basically not participating in the game so far. Verdant trying to match Nord's map play, making it work top and not so much mid. Nord, you know, doing their usual thing. Like, Hiddo, I guess we'll see you at 20 minutes into the game or something like that, you know? And, you know, making their plays around the map, and it's been working out for them. Right.
So, Verdant, here, they shouldn't be looking for this. They don't have TP
Seneca goes over the wall, comes back. Hiddo now going to be locked down, flashed away, but still caught by the last breath. But Yone flies back and Omen TPs in to cause havoc. Indecision is able to take down Wender for the first kill of the game, first kill of the fight. And it has been a very, very bad decision there for Verdant to choose that engagement. 2 dead. Hiddo going to be focused down under the tower with the equalizer. Gooby takes him out, but once again, it's Nord coming out with the fight win.
Yeah, good response kill there for Nilla, but Verdant should never be looking to take that fight. Simply tracking timers. The person you have in bot lane doesn't have teleport. Oman does. Generates a numbers advantage. And as soon as that Swain comes to the fight, Demonic Ascension comes through and relies onto everybody in the area. Means that nobody can escape. As soon as you have them in your sights, it's a very easy takedown. The follow-up from an Ornn, from a Kai'Sa at range as well. Definitely very powerful. And Nord playing this composition once again very well.
And Voxley and the gang need to take notes. Do not attempt to fight Nord in that midsection. That is their comfort zone. That is the area that they have carved out and said, this is mine. Whoa. What? Go on. What are you? Are you okay?
Oh, hello? Are we back? Are we back?
Wait, you were never gone.
We never left.
You never...
You've been
Whoa.
here.
That was very, very strange. I had some...
We just, I was like, whoa, well, what's happening on the screen? Like, I was legit thinking I was blind. Like, am I missing something?
Middlecourt was just enthused by the fact that Wendell had a closer track to mid lane than Seneca for once.
There was something very, very strange going on with the box that gives me internet, but I think we're back.
But Wendell just exists, like, he's just, like, standing mid now, right? And Seneca's taking control of both sides of the river while he's doing that. But he's like, alright, if Seneca's gonna be here, I'm just gonna stay right here, alright? If this is such a problem, I'm just gonna stand right here, okay, guys? Now Seneca's not a problem.
I think that for the most part as well, it may well just be too little too late. Omon's already effectively Thanos at this stage. I think that Gooby's going to have a real tough time on his shoulders. I think he's going to have to be the one to stand at range the way that you play versus a Swain. You just try and outrange his ulti. Again, Zeri with lethal tempo, that is possible. It's very difficult because if you get caught trying to weave in those Qs between your between the CC, can be tricky, and if you get caught then you end up just essentially dying. It's all on Gooby here. 1-0-0 on the Zeri, ahead in farm, able to snipe a kill out on Hido in the last fight. Had a decent enough split, not necessarily the highlight of Verdant, but has been known to carry the occasional game.
I feel like when people say, as an aside, that someone is like Thanos now, it's similar to when people used to say that you're like the Spartans at Thermopylae, right? Because you forget that Thanos lost.
Is it?
And I very much don't think Omon is going to lose.
Well, I mean, like, Swain has that whole, like, demon claw hand thing. So I guess that's kind of like
He's
the
not
Infinity
going
Gauntlet as
to
well.
lose. So I'm not going to compare him to Thanos, who lost, right? He got beheaded in one timeline, and then he just got obliterated in another.
Spoilers!
Right?
Wow.
Spoilers!
Spoilers for like a 5-year-old
I really
movie,
care
dude.
about Marvel Phase 9 or wherever we're at with that.
True. Yes.
But
I fell asleep on
honestly,
Secret Invasion.
something that you maybe wouldn't see in a modern superhero film is interesting writing, and we've had some pretty interesting
Jesus.
script writing in this
True.
series because M. Night
How can we just
Shyamalan
drop
style
something
stuff.
so based?
This is incredible, but genuinely, guys, Amrudu, I know that you predicted that the 3-0 coming through from Nord. Did you anticipate that they were going to be coming in to this series playing like this?
So the reason I anticipate,
Just
or the
say
reason
yes.
I predicted 3-0 was because they would play like this.
True.
Was in the situation where they come in, got punched Verdant early on, never really give Verdant that chance to sit to scale. I actually think that, you know, I got to work with Hitbrain both days last week. He was actually really on the ball with the notion about how Verdant really slow Nord really fast, and those two things combined with the state of the meta as well, Verdant not really being able to play to that same, just the same level, honestly, and Nord have been able to showcase that they are on that level.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is just annihilation on the replay here. But I'm gonna be real. Like, I watched the vods for this today, right? To prep for the series. So by the time I did the predictions, I hadn't actually watched the vods in it, but the predictions are over, right? It's either Witter or Middlecourt. Like, but watching those, it was very obvious that if you have a team, okay, I don't want to sound completely nerdy, all right? And I am a pretty big nerd.
Oh, do it,
right?
do it.
But if you go all the way back,
moment.
if you go all the way back to, I believe it was 2019, the way that the league was defined was that you had 3-man midsection teams, 2-man midsection teams, and 0-man midsection teams, and you could know who's going to beat who by which team was which. That hierarchy was very, very simple. G2 Fnatic were 3-man midsection teams, right? Schalke were a 2-man midsection team, right? Splice were a 0-man midsection team. They just kind of played out lanes and existed for ages. So you could know who was going to win the playoff matchups by this. You had the same thing going on here. You have a 3-man midsection team from Nord versus 0-man from Verdant. Verdant just played out their lanes over and over again. They're trying to make map plays now, but I'm not even sure. Doesn't seem to be a consistent system by it. It just seems to be by feel about whether they can do it now in the moment rather than a systemic set of plays to get control of the map. If you can make those numbers happen in midsection early, you will control the rest of the map anyway. You're going to be behind on side lane plays if you don't have control of this area. And this feels like a repeat of that 2019 cycle. And so you could very easily say, Nord should just win, right? Unless they lose all lanes level 1, 2, 3 and don't get those timings off, they should just win. And they weren't losing these lanes level 1, 2, 3.
I will just say as well, to add some clarity to the pauses, we've had several different pauses so far this game. We've had a couple of lag issues from Verdant, we've had a couple of peripherals issues from Nord, so everybody just having a little bit of a tricky time in middle cut as well, not alone in his problems with the box that gives him internet. So we're doing our stuff here on the NLC, and with Nord now very much ahead, they're going for a dive.
Yeah, under the top lane tower, 3 men to the party. Seneca, Indecision, and Omen once more. It's taken a little bit of time for Nella to die, but he will eventually to the Rakan. TP comes through from Niter, has the ult available. Omen low on HP and out of an ult if they want to commit for this. Flash forward for the engage, shut down for the Verdant mid laner, something at least.
Yep, I mean, you need this Yone to be ahead. If Yone can just go on side lanes at this point in the game, and we are about to be approaching that Baron spawn late game scenario, if Yone can be on side lanes with some sort of tempo, and Katos is too far behind to be able to match him, Nocturne can't just immediately one-shot him going in and sustain through that way, then, you know, that's your win con. Like, that's how you get back into this game. You just let this guy play out side lanes, you get advantages on the map that way, and those advantages give you the angles that you need to win those fights.
Chemtech Drake going to be versed down very swiftly by Verdant, and Nords maybe a little bit too late to contest this. Indecision, Seneca waiting in the wings, but Omen doesn't have ult if they want to go for this. Oh, a catch there! Isolated! They've been able to catch out Wendell on the side. Take him down in trade for the Drake. Verdant going to be happy to only lose one.
You're right, that's a win for Verdant. Oh, this might not be.
Yeah, Nilla caught on the side by the paranoia. And Nord coming to get him. Gooby's going to respond with a lightning crash, dash, try and deal some damage back. Actually, been able to persist for a fair while as Taxu's also roaming over. But here comes Hido. Killer Instinct, but Auto's a minion. Oh, Gooby was very, very close to going down. Nord with the pressure should be able to take the tower.
Either way, there was a dash out from Gooby the second that Hido dashed in himself, so I don't think there would have been a timing there for Hido to take it. Nevertheless, Gooby playing with fire and honestly doing a large amount of damage to the 3-man stack there of Nord. Are they going to dive Taxa? Possible. I mean, Hido's got lethal tempo.
There's no way. The rest of the map is being won by them very hard as well. Swain was able to get that push in on mid. Catchcoast was... sorry, not Catchcoast. Niter was only able to acquire one wave on mid. No pressure there whatsoever. Went to try to get some pressure on top lane. Way too behind. And because he was so far behind on that crash on top side, he's not able to join River to try to defend Wendell getting any kind of vision here. They have a little bit of vision, but nothing really effective there. They don't know that they can move it in there at all in the first place. Rumble's pushing out bot, but doesn't have teleport, and Nord absolutely know that. Nord have their non-TP lane on top side. Honestly, you can just sacrifice this tier 1 tower and play super aggressively for this Baron with full advantage. Nord in control.
Absolutely, as Niter is burning the ult defensively. Couchcost's going to pull out the Call of the Forge God. It's another easy kill for Nords. They've just been so much better at setting up these plays and executing on them across both of these games.
I mean, Indecision's Nocturne, it's going a little bit crazy, honestly. You know, I was a little bit scared about the pinch jungle pool coming into this draft. You mentioned to me before when we were coming in middle cut, you're like, you know what, Indecision's got some pocket picks. I wouldn't be too scared. I doubted you, but you know, you've proven an Indecision has as well. More than that, you are right. Really good performance, 209 on this Nocturne now, and starting up this Baron with Niter dead. I mean, you know, one of the big threats is out of the game.
Yeah, and Nilla is bot lane without TP, so Nord's gonna back away. With Verdant, I believe, spotting it out there.
Niter's death, and during that play, Omen was hard pushing out bot lane. Omen himself didn't have TP, but he was ahead on that push versus the Rumble. So with a numbers advantage topside, Rumble couldn't do anything anymore, and then Rumble eventually has to respond on bot lane. And when he does that response, immediate grouping, you have a really, really good Baron contest here, to be honest. You have good turn with your composition. I mean, it's obvious how well Nord's composition can turn. But with Kai'Sa and Nocturne, you actually do that thing very, very fast if you group. So you're going to see a lot of these plays happen for the rest of the game. They can honestly just T1 it. Like, let's be real. They can just T1 it. They can just start Baron, not even bother with these pressure points at this time. The enemy's not going to be getting any bounties from it. Just start it over and over again. Keep turning. But so long as your ults are up, you're going to win these fights.
Now, I will say as well, the 5 versus 5, if it goes like even just a little bit close, it's probably going to be quite favourable for Verdant. The front line specifically for Nord have all got bounties on their head. So if you take down Seneca, Indecision, Catch Cost, whilst they're not necessarily priority targets, when they've got bounties on their heads, it's a lot of gold to go back if that all gets funneled into Gooby as well. Definitely a world where we can see Verdant try and take these team fights. Zeri might not be the be-all and end-all of late-game hyper-tank, hyper-carry type situation she was in previous patches, but still does a lot of damage if left unchecked at these items.
And she's going to have to, right? Because Nilla and Knight are both currently 1 and 4 chasing the second items in their inventory and kind of being outmatched, not pound for pound necessarily by their lane opponents in Nords, but when it comes to this fight, there's just so much more effectiveness that Nord can get out of their composition, and now that we're sort of post 23, 24 minutes, the objectives become even more impactful if they're able to take them. This next Drake would be Soul Point if Nord can grab it. Gooby going to be able to skate out of there, but Baron also becoming a consideration that Verdant are going to have to be aware of.
It's a massive whiff from Catch Cost. Why are you using that before the Drake spawns in 10 seconds time? I understand trying to pick off the Zeri, but she has E, she has Flash, she has Ghost. If Nord now lose this fight because they don't have Call the Forge God, that seems like a huge blunder to me.
Are we starting up the Drake here? Indecision Seneca. Waiting in the wings. Paranoia is going to go down, and Verdant, they're not entirely sure where they should be focusing. Initial pick going through onto Wendell, and the Nautilus dying at the start of the fight once again. Catch Cost in the stopwatch, buying time on the front line. Verdant on the run. Gooby kiting for his life, and with the burst fires, he might just be able to do it. Catch Cost knocks him into the skies, and that's the go button for Nord. One overstep, and they will punish, but Verdant still persisting. Gooby still alive, and Omen tanking in the front line is going to be able to survive him and Hido in a 2v3 situation, but very beneficial in terms of the health bars. Nita goes in for a quick trade, and it's straight back away. Verdant, they find a winning fight.
That was the best situation possible for Verdant. You got everybody on towards the catwalk there, which has always been known as a very good Rumble ultimate spot, and the Rumble is able to prevent them from capitalizing on their initial turn. And yet, with that, you could see how difficult a time Gooby has against this composition. Ooh. If Kai'Sa can get on you, you just get burned down like the dog that you are, now that you can no longer be a massively beefy tank with all of those effective shield and health items that you had on previous iterations of Zeri. So even though they had that, even though they ended up 4v2 at a point, they couldn't fully capitalize on it, and that was the best case scenario for Verdant, because Nord, they trigger pulled, and they should be able to trigger pull off of a neutral objective, but they were unfortunately trigger pulling on a spot that they were very vulnerable to Verdant's big win con in Nyla.
Or not would have been great.
I didn't want to say it, Middlecop, but
or no, would have been.
You might be right.
Pretty damn good there. Well, Catch Cost has it now. Is currently in the bottom lane without TP, so if this pressure around the Baron turns into anything more concrete, he will not be able to join his team, but Nita will neither, so can't imagine that either team is going to make too much of an aggressive move towards that objective yet.
And I want to take a quick look at those items as well. Gooby, exceptionally fed on this Zeri. Gold lead dead even between these two teams, but with the Zeri 202 was able to have a nice little team fight there. Nita got those shutdowns on the frontliners that we'd mentioned, that we'd highlighted Nord. Having a couple of champions that need to be a little bit more careful with their life. Unfortunately, ended up getting picked off, so they hadn't got a good cash injection from that fight, despite the fact that they lost the Drake. This fight in 3-4 minutes time, when that next soul or when the soul for Nord even spawns, you can expect to see Verdant very happy to take a fight around it.
You talk about Gooby being fed, but look at the other side, his opposite number in Hido. Still, pound for pound, just as strong as the Zeri in terms of itemization, even if he is a level down. So Really does become about both of these guys in that next team fight if they're able to survive, if they're able to deal out the DPS. Brown has been on the table for a little while, and Nord have the majority of the vision control around it for now.
They do indeed, and the same conditions still apply as they did towards the Drake and towards the previous Baron plays. They have the turn, they have the ability to burn this down as fast as humanly possible, and they have full control of the map. Verdant, they're looking at a completely black river going in towards that Baron now. They're scared to go into it. They need to try to get little incremental bits of control back, like this little bit pocket here that Wendell, Nyla, Taxa are sitting on. But, you know, Nord, they have the knowledge that those guys are there. They're not going to let them get it.
Still waiting. If you are able to find a pick on someone who isn't on, it could be disastrous. Seneca on the flank. Here comes the call of the Forge God. 3-man knock up into the Wombo combo, but the equalizer is immaculate from Nille. Omen tacking on the front line with the swing, goes into the Zhonyas, and Gooby is still dishing out damage. The Zeri has not been accounted for in the game plan, but the knockup comes through, and Hino takes her down, dashes into the killer instinct to stay alive, and Omen still survives. Nille shall not in the fight as a teleport comes down from Niter. The Olders dropped off Omen, and despite a 2-level difference between these mid laners, should be easy pickings for Niter. Verdant will not go quietly into the night.
No, the engage may well be on to 3 members, but none of them were important. Gooby is the only person that needs to be targeted on this Verdant roster, and Nord need to begin to recognise that Zeri will be able to rip through them. 4 items on the Zeri, got the Navori Quick Blades as well, so dishes out immense amounts of damage, can dash around like a fiend, and Verdant, they've got a win condition, and now, with all of that fighting that Gooby's been able to perform on, Knight has quietly been able to start stacking, start scaling as well. He's going to go back to base, finish up another item for himself. 3 items on the Yone, also terrifying.
But this game should be simple for Nord. They just need to bait these guys into these chokeholds, and they need to fight them there. But instead, they're trying to open in these lanes on Catwalk, in these areas where Verdant have a lot of room to move, a lot of room to breathe, and are able to get their win cons out much easier. Yubi shouldn't be able to function if you get him into an enclosed environment where you can guarantee that the Kaiser's going to get on top, that the Nocturne's going to get on top. Omon needs to be able to get as many people in his area as humanly possible, but they're just not finding it.
Flash is available for Omon at this next fight. Drake spawning in 30 seconds time. The be-all and end-all soul here. Hextech Drake, very, very powerful for these skirmish compositions, for your team fighting. So eyes on Nord. See if they can find this Zeri, pick her out of the lineup, make sure that that target has been selected. You know, your eyes are on Verdant. Are they able to protect the Zeri? Can Gooby do anything to prevent the dive that Nord have got given?
Kachkos is going to be able to teleport back into this fight as one of the team who've controlled the mid lane, and so can move down into River first. This Drake doesn't mean much for them, but it is Soul for Nord if they can take it away. And in these fights, they are going a little bit longer. An Ocean Soul, or a Hextech Soul rather, be very much appreciated. Indecision has the ult, as it does Kachkos. Gooby goes over the wall, is still going to get hit with the knockup, but is out of vision. The Equalizer comes down, it's going to split the fight a little bit, and the Zeri is still able to free fire. Nord have not been able to activate on their win condition, but they still take out Niter. The Yone is off the board, but it still comes through! Taxa gets the soul away from Nord, but it doesn't seem to matter. Gooby on minuscule amounts of HP, kiting away in the backline, still surviving, still thriving, but Nord are here with 4 members. Taxa making a play here onto Seneca. Kachkos going to dash forward. The Q goes wide, but it doesn't matter. Kachkos takes down Zeri finally at the end of that play, but crucially, Verdant deny the soul.
A much better fight situation there for Nord, right? But they do lose that soul point. That triple hex into soul hex would have been insane for them, but they are denied that. Luckily, though, they do now get the feel for the fight situation they want. Yes, the Equalizer came out, but it wasn't able to get them all because they were opened up in River and they had the room to go around it. But just the very presence of Omon prevented the rest of the team getting around into the choke, splitting them up and making the fight so much easier for Nord. If they just keep these fights in River into chokehold, then they're going to win them really hard instead of going into the chokehold as in the first fight against Rumble that was close, or just opening up in lane for whatever impatient reason, they don't need to be impatient. They're not going to get super hard outscaled. They're always going to have really good tools to deal with Gooby for most of the game. They just need to play fights like that, and preferably get the Drake.
There have been a couple of occasions through the NLC's long tenure where Taxa may have been known to steal away an objective or two. So, no surprises that we're seeing Taxa consistently, and at least in this game, stepping up to keep his team at least at relative parity with regard to those neutral objectives. Now, of course, the beauty of the Hextech Drake and the rift that it provides was that it meant Nord were able to go back to base, get back out onto the map and secure themselves that Baron. They've used 1 minute of that timer already, but they've got themselves in a decent enough state on those lanes. Need to make sure that they are pushing out appropriately. But Verdant playing in a nice pocket of vision. You can see that both of the bot lane and the mid lane had to play a little bit respectfully there. They didn't quite know where Verdant was setting up.
And I think an issue that both teams are kind of experiencing is that map hasn't really been extended too much. All these inner towers still remain standing for both these teams, so there's a very narrow field that you can stand in to set up plays on your opponents. So Seneca hasn't really been able to get these massive flank angles off onto the backline of Verdant, and that's meant that they've been able to keep going, to survive, to go 33 minutes against a team that completely smacked them in game one. Hold on, we might be having a change of plan here. Niter engaged on in the mid lane. Hido, killer instincts, but not in range of the Yone. It may not matter in the end, though, as the Yone will eventually drop down, and that's going to set up a half-decent fight here for Nord, but they get split and they get isolated and they get taken down. Catchcos and Omen going to be falling off the board. Double for Gooby.
Nothing to claim for Verdant off the back of this, but it does stop that Baron push dead in its tracks. Yes, a tier 2 mid lane falls. They're going to be more than happy to give that up in favour of making sure that nothing else goes down on this Baron timer. Gooby gets to go back to base, might be able to finish Guardian Angel off the back of that instead just says, Nana's to safety, I need to do as much damage as possible. BT for me, thank you very much. And full items now for this Zeri. Again, have to remember, this is the one champion that Nord particularly, have to focus, make sure that they are in a good spot to take down. Which gets harder and harder every item that gets finished.
But they have so many disadvantages playing this through into lane. With that Baron, you can create more pressure for your opponents after going towards jungle. You can play it slow, right? You can play 4 tower and no more than that, and make picks opportunistically as the enemy has to rotate to try to get you, spread themselves thin. Maybe you get 1 pick or 2 off there, but just a straight up 5-on-5 lane fight, you'd think they'd know by now, right? There are rats who are able to train to learn this, and we don't have to shock them quite so much.
You've told them several times at least in this game, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that would imply, quite disastrously, that they're not listening to the stream whilst they're playing. So,
I mean,
don't know how I feel about that, but it felt like there
that's a
have
loss
been
for them, honestly.
so many of these fights, right, where Gooby has just been able to free hit, and even in this one, he gets taken relatively low towards the end, but finding access onto this area has been a continual problem for Nord.
Yeah, it has. I mean, their big tools to do that are the Nocturne, are the Seneca 5 trillion dashes, and definitely the Kaiser are, but all of that in this fight was used on Niter, which does give Gooby a lot of leeway, but as he finds out after, that mobility on the Rakan remains. Kaiser has her own other forms of mobility, and if you get rid of big threats like the Niter, you can still kind of run her down a bit. But if it's a straight 5-on-5, that's not going to happen. She's going to be free hitting you at the same time as you're going on towards Niter, and that's when you're at your most vulnerable.
And this presents a great inflection point potentially for the series for us, because if Nord are able to keep a hold of this advantage, close out this game, then they've got match point in this series. They have got 3 opportunities to send themselves to EMEA Masters, to send themselves to the final versus Natives. But if Verdant can get that wing, that's the start of that comeback. That's us going, no, that game 1, it was an incident. We won't talk about it anymore, and potentially helps them build on that confidence and make this a much more competitive series from their side. So Really, I think quite often you end up with high pressure games in 3, 4 of a series, but here in game 2, this is a big moment.
A lot of stakes. That is probably an understatement, honestly. Update for you all on the pause. It looks like Knight are having some connection issues. So just making sure that obviously Verdant get that mid laner reconnected. Hopefully within enough time for their pause timer to be unallocated. We obviously get to sort of sit here, revel in the fact that this game has been a lot closer than game number 1, a bit more of what I think the broadcast team would have been hoping for. Not just Nord completely stomping their way through 3 games, home before dinner type situation. But it's a good little showcasing here from both teams.
We're back.
We're back.
Nice. Okay. No awkwardness here then.
Yeah.
It's never awkward.
It's never hard. I love filling in pauses. It's the most fun.
The NLC podcast has become a bit of I think, a new level of meme this split.
Yeah, we should start an actual podcast.
Yeah, I've been wondering why we haven't had one. I thought that off the tier list we were going to end up just having a podcast. But clearly, I mean, producers, get on it.
We've lacked some critical thinking, I think.
Yeah.
That's what's...
Well, next split. It's in the oven. It's getting cooked. It's going to happen next split. 40 seconds. We have got a Drake spawning. And this will be a very nice soul if Nord can get it. But Verdant showed the ability to fight around the Drake last time. And they're going to put up even more resistance, I think, around this one.
Should hope so. I mean, again...
they're first.
To rehash the points for them, they've got full item Zeri, who's obviously going to be the subject of Nord's ire, you'd like to think anyway. And then your eyes have to be on Knight to see if he can find some of those big clutch re-engages, counter-engages to thwart Nord's efforts.
Move into the river. Seneca trying to engineer a flank from the side. He's going to be spotted on that control board. They are... But...
No!
Come on, guys!
Why?
Oh, right.
Guys, they're about to fight. We need to make sure that everything's okay if there are peripheral issues going into a fight.
That's great. That's cool.
The Seneca is on the flank there. There's absolutely no choice. Nord have to fight this, and they have to fight it now. And at the exact point, we get the pause, which is a bit of a blower. But yeah, like they have to take this. This is actual soul, because the last soul point got stolen. And they know if they leave Taxa alive, they're not going to get this one either. They have to get on top of them. They have to deny them the soul itself. They have to get on soul point themselves. But they're doing it at disadvantage. This is not a good situation for them, right? Going straight on top of them like this, that's the scenario where if you go on towards Niter, Gooby hits you. And if you go on towards Gooby, Niter hits you. You don't want to be in those situations either times. This looks like a very good situation if you're a Verdant fan. So if you're one of the managers.
Frumi is... Well, I don't know how Frumi's feeling right now. I imagine quite tense. Very, very nervous.
Yes.
So I think
His team's 0-1 down on the series that sent him to EMEA.
The worst
nervous
timing.
I think nervous is kind of going to be the mood in all the watch parties, in all the discords for the fans of both these teams right now. But yeah,
I mean,
Nord have been trying to go right through the front door against Verdant in the last few fights, and it hasn't been working. Once again, I think Seneca spotted out on vision as he's trying to come over this wall into this Drake fight, so we'll have to see if it's a case of Nord pulling the trigger a little bit too early and maybe not having the engage set up in the way that they necessarily want to, and Verdant able to take advantage of that.
I'm going to be curious. I really want to keep my eyes on Gooby. I know we've highlighted him a lot, but when you're fighting around these really important objectives, and actually the important thing for me is the large pieces of terrain, specifically like Drake walls, the big knuckle around bot lane as well. There's a situation that you can find yourself in where you dash just what you think is a little bit to the side, where you end up yeeting yourself over a wall and you're effectively poppy ulting yourself out of a fight. So it's a small thing, but Gooby, just cognizant of the fact that you can't be being next to walls that are going to take you too far away from a fight, because even if Nocturne jumps in and you get away from the fear, the Nocturne's job is already done, because if you're not a part of that big fight, cool, I don't care if you're dead or not, you've just ulted and need away, you're now also useless, so...
Yeah, it's kind of highlights how difficult it is for him to play out this composition as well, because on the other side you do have that Ornn. If you're going to be standing next to the walls like Zoe does want to be positioning, the Ornn's going to absolutely love you for that, right? So there's a lot of ways.
Okay, we've got to get to this quickly. Equalizer down, and Verdant gets the Drake.
So
Paranoia thrown down. Seneca still flashing over the wall. Going for a pick hit onto Wendell, diving on the Nautilus. This isn't the priority target you need to be taking. Nord is going to be falling down, but Gooby is untouched. Here comes Omen, getting it into the backline, getting access onto the Zeri. Dashes back over the wall to escape. Nille going over the wall himself, and Nords get one kill. They're looking for even more, but here comes Knight. It doesn't have the ult. Hito is going to kill her instinct onto Nille in the backline, but he doesn't kill the Rumble. He gets the Yone instead, but there goes the other solo laner, and Nord are going to find another fight. The catch on to Zeri takes her down, and Nord are denied the soul once again, but they find a massive fight against Verdant.
Wait, they won?
They won the fight, but I don't think they're going to be able to get too much more. Their
Wait.
wave's not really in the best spot. Death time is...
Are the observers correct? Wait, what's going on? Okay, sorry. Just on my screen, it says that Verdant have 3 Drakes for Nord 3 Drake.
That's correct.
That is absolutely what has happened, veteran.
Okay, I'm so
and at
confused.
the moment, Nord are marching down the one lane. They've taken down the inhib, and those death
10
timers,
seconds,
10 seconds until they're up. Verdant going for the engage super early on. Stopwatch to buy a little bit of time, but Taxa is already off the board. Shaw's going to get his escape interrupted a little bit there by Wendell, but
I need a replay of that.
Out.
I need a replay of that Drake. Right now, the game is in such a good state for Nord, but I need a replay of that Drake.
What's confusing you? Where did we... What was the source? I'm confused also now.
So the initial engage that was done on towards the Nautilus, I thought they burned so many cooldowns that there's no way that they could move all the way through them. I don't think Omen was strong enough just to do that, and I really need to see the decisions that were done by Verdant to give that to them, because Verdant, they could just move away. They could absolutely just move away from that. I think once you've burned the Rumble ult, that should be the play, right? You do the Rumble ult, you get the Drake, you move away. You should be able to make it out of that fight fairly decently. If they want to go into you, Nocturne and Kai'Sa should have to stretch themselves super thin for it. But it felt like they committed a bit too hard towards saving the Nautilus, and in doing so, just kind of gifted themselves over. The angle, obviously, at which you approach bot side there, if you're not going via Tribush, becomes very awkward.
Engage onto Omen. Initial burst down onto the Swain. Nord are going to respond by coming over the window. Is going to be taken out of the picture. But Verdant are just so much stronger in their own base. Nord fumble the engage. Hito has gone over the wall, and he's dishing out so much damage. Somehow, Nord find the fight in the base of Verdant. Nille.
They've got numbers.
Now they're going to win.
The last one's left alive. Baron in Power Minion's going to assist
It's doable.
in
It's
the push. First next tower going to be focused down. Nille is overheated, cannot cast any more spells. The Cathian Rain burning onto him as Nitra is going to go for a short trade, go straight back out, but not able to take down any members of Nord. Still 10 seconds until Wendell is on the board. It's got to be Nitra, it's got to be Nille, it's got to be now. Equalizer is going to be able to take out the minions, and Nord think better of going for the push. Hito.
Nille and Nitra, they were just handshaking there, right? Nitra's like, I'll hold them off or you get your HP back. And then Nulla comes back with ultimate, it's like, I'll hold them off or you get your HP back. They keep trading back like that to try to make sure Nord don't end the game here and go 2-0 up in the series. Massive underdogs, they just barely made it in. There was a time where we were saying we thought Fourth Wall could even be making it in over Nord. Nord repeating the story that Verdant passed down last split, right? And Verdant, they know how that story ends. And this must be a really nerve-wracking situation for them to be in. Oh.
But look at who's getting it done. Yes, Indecision and Omen continuing their strong playoff form, but it's Hito. 700 gold bounty on his back, 10, 2, and 11, fully stacked on the Kai'Sa. He's been getting pretty greedy, pretty aggressive in these last couple fights. That's been working out well. Once again, Verdant are going to be starting off the engagement. Nitra diving into the backline and dying before the autos of Hito. Wendell going to be the next target. Gooby still untouched in this fight, trying to do all that he can with the burst fires. But Nord will just cut through everybody else. Esports. Hino with a triple. Hino with a quadra. Hino with a goddamn pentakill to win game 2. Grab match point for Nord.
And the rookie for Nord steps up once again. A pentakill to end game 2 sends them